Alf, actions speak louder than words. We've all heard that before, right? Actions speak louder than words. I think this is really important too when we're just looking at the YouTube space or the Instagram space, the social media world in general. What am I talking about here? Well, Nostlagia Nomics just did a reaction video to Rudy Alpha Investments video. I watched the same video that Rudy did, and I thought it was really interesting what Rudy had to say. And it's a really tough question that he had to answer, but he gave his best answer, and I'm going to explain what that is. But before I do, listen to my sales pitch. I've got an affiliate code for PSA. If you haven't used PSA before, first-time submitter, I'm one of the only ones on the internet with a $25 off your first submission code. It's SCD25. I'm over at the Sports Card Dad as well. If you want to listen to other sports card related collectibles type talk, that is my other channel. So make sure to check me out over there. And don't forget to use that promo code or tell a friend that's never graded with PSA, $25 off. All right. So basically the gist of the question to Rudy was, what do you think is going to outperform the S&P 500 over the next 10 years? Maybe it was like 5 to 10 years. I think it was 10 years. Do you think it will be vintage Pokemon or more of the modern, ultra-modern Pokemon stuff? And the way that Rudy answered this question was essentially that he feels that it would be more so the modern, ultra-modern type stuff, specifically Sword and Shield and some of that early Scarlet Violet stuff, is going to outperform the S&P 500 over the next, like in 10 years, which one will do better. Now, what he also said on the back of this is he does not believe that vintage Pokemon will outperform the S&P over the next 10 years. This is an incredibly difficult question to answer just because these are two very different things, very different investments, if you will, if you want to call Pokemon investing, really. I know we throw around that term a lot, but it's really just speculation. Pokemon investing is not the same as traditional investing in the S&P, but I understand the gist of the question, and good on Rudy for trying to answer it. Basically, what he was saying with vintage Pokemon is he feels like a lot of those gains have already been made, essentially, and that he feels like there's more upside for that newer product that is there now. Now, if you take that at face value, and if that's also what you happen to believe and it fits the groupthink that you think, then you're somebody like Nostlagia Nomics that took that, ran with it, jumped on the internet, and immediately said, hey, look, the guy that basically he copied, which fair enough, he does a good job on his channel, Nostlagia Nomics. He even uses folks, just like Rudy, even uses folks. So obviously, whether Nostlagia Nomics will say so or not, Rudy is clearly the inspiration, has been the inspiration for his channel. It's clear as day. But let's go back to what we said when we started the video. What are they doing versus what are they actually saying? And this is interesting too. A lot of the Pokemon and the TCG folks, they're all business owners as well. Nostlagia Nomics has got the rip and ship business going. Rudy, of course, is buying pallets, keeping some of it, selling some to Patreons, and he's been doing that for what, 10 or 15 years? And he's done extremely well doing it. But he's also really well versed in finance in general. He's got a lot of stock and he's got a lot of other things, real estate. Hell, he's got paintings, he's got art and stuff all over the walls. But one thing I thought was really interesting going back, I think this was about a month or two back. I wish that I had a clip or at least the video title of it. But he said that he had sold off to his Patreons about 30% of his overall position. And I believe it was Sword and Shield. Maybe it was in Scarlet Violet, but one of the two. Essentially exactly what Nostlagia Nomics lives in, because Nostlagia Nomics doesn't buy anything pre-2020, basically. All of his holdings are really the new Sword and Shield, Scarlet Violet stuff. That's it. And going back to end of December, January, and even into February, what was I hearing and what were you probably hearing? What were we all hearing? Pokemon bull market, look out, Sword and Shield. You know, this box is going to be $500 in 6 months. This one's going to be $1,000. This one's going to be $2,000. It was all hype, everybody going absolutely crazy over all of the new modern stuff. Now, unless, again, he maybe said it in a video and I missed it, I don't think he was buying Brilliant Stars at $250 a box or buying whatever, any of these new sets, or buying any of this stuff at the new prices. Now, again, I could be wrong on this, but I don't think Nostlagia Nomics was either. I don't think that he was buying any of the Sword and Shield and the Scarlet Violet at kind of these new raised prices up, up to $250, $300, maybe $400 Fusion Strike boxes. I don't think he was buying at those prices. But actually, I do know that he was selling in. He was actually selling into these prices. So I heard, again, what are you saying versus what are you doing? And what's doing is, Nostlagia Nomics just said that he paid off his house with Pokemon investments. Speculation, whatever you want to call it. Good on him. Fantastic. But again, I'm looking at what are you saying versus what are you doing? Because really when we look at the prices for a lot of that stuff, what's happened really with, the Brilliant Stars or the Fusion Strike type stuff? It came up and then it plateaued like crazy. And why is that? It's because a lot of people have the same idea. And look, God bless them. This is not a knock on anybody that decided, oh my God, I bought boxes at $100 and I can now sell them for $300. I'm going to sell into it. Absolutely. That's a part of collectibles. That's just part of buying and selling stuff. It makes sense. But the reason why it's really kind of remained flat, pretty stagnant, and some of the stuff has dipped down, it's not necessarily just because of reprints on certain things. It's just because a ton of volume of sealed product has moved into the market. It's like, oh my God, I need to take advantage. I need to sell into some of the hype. Pokemon's going ballistic right now. I've got, I'm up 100% or 200% on these boxes, and I'm going to take some money off the table. Fantastic. But the reason why prices have stagnated and they haven't continued to go up to $500, $1,000 or whatever is because it's not scarce. It's not rare. There's a lot of it out there. There's a lot of sealed holders that are deciding, you know what, I'm going to sell all of this, or I'm going to sell half of it, or I'm going to sell 25% of it, or whatever. Maybe I'm wrong again, and maybe Rudy is just buying more at the elevated prices. Maybe he is. But the one thing I do know that he is buying, which is very interesting, again, based off of what he said about, vintage is just kind of like, I don't know if it's going to go anywhere. It might be kind of flat, might be kind of slow and steady, but he's buying vintage. He actually had a video, a couple months ago, where he bought a massive sealed Magic collection. He's hoarding sealed Magic. And he also, over the years, there's different videos, search it up. He's been buying vintage Pokemon as well, just kind of picking his spots. And again, look, if he's buying collections of TCG, you know that he's getting Magic, but he's also getting Pokemon. So he's been probably buying that stuff as part of collections all the way through over the years since he started. When did he start buying Pokemon? I think like 7, 8 years ago, or maybe 9 years ago. XY, I think that's when he really started buying into it. Of course, he's well known to have bought pallets and pallets and pallets of all of the, the pandemic Pokemon stuff, the Sword, Shield, Scarlet, Violet. He has boatloads of it. Still does. So Nostlagia Nomics takes that, of course, that comment from Rudy, takes it at face value and runs with it. And yet what I'm seeing is Rudy might be saying that, you know what, I think that newer stuff, maybe it's got some higher upside. But what is he actually doing, though? He's buying vintage. He's buying more and more vintage. So again, it's like the market's crashing, vintage is trash, but he's buying it. So let's kind of read between the lines. For me, I'm seeing this as like Rudy is looking for opportunities. Rudy's smart. He's always made money in the space. And I think what's going to end up happening, and this is just my view. I think both of these things can be right. Meaning I do think the Sword and Shield and the Scarlet Violet stuff at 10, 15, 20 years, I think it's still going to be popular. I still think there's going to be some really nice growth with it. But everyone's going to sleep on vintage stuff. And that is going to be the stuff. Again, you're looking at another generation. Everybody's kind of getting older. And with all collectibles, in every single collectible space that I've ever seen, it's the original stuff, the first appearance. Eventually, that's the stuff that the big money wants. To me, if you're big money coming into a collectible space, are you really seriously what? You're going to go to Costco? You're going to Costco and fighting people, to get boxes? Or you're buying new product coming out if you're the real big serious money? No. You're coming in and you're buying the original stuff. You're looking at all of the first edition whatevers, the 90s stuff, the early 2000s stuff, the Skyridge stuff. You're looking at all of the original stuff. Big money is not going to sit here and chase new modern product. No. So this is going to be really interesting to watch. But I think, again, Nostlagia Nomics set in his ways. He's been proven to be right here over the last few years, especially. Keep in mind, a lot of the buys here, these aren't like 10-year holds. This is stuff that he got in, and good for him and good for many others that in 2021, 2022 bought in a lot of product at really cheap, held on to it, and it ended up working out. But 3 or 4 years in the hobby is a very small microcosm of a much longer time span. And again, the reason why Rudy is saying vintage isn't selling, vintage is trash, it's not going anywhere, is he's going to buy more of it. He's going to keep on buying it, and he's going to buy it at a discount. And then at some point down the road, this is just one man's prediction, people are going to look at the 90s Pokemon stuff the same way they look at 50s baseball cards. I know what you're going to say. Oh my God, I can't believe you said that. Pokemon is so different from baseball cards and the origins of all that. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I think it follows the same sort of trend lines over time. And it's going to be really fun to watch. Again, I could be completely wrong, but watch what people actually do, because a lot of people say a lot of stuff on the internet, but what do they actually do? I think that that is really critical, especially when I am, or viewers, whoever is looking at making buying decisions. Read the tea leaves, read in between the lines a little bit, because taking things at face value, might not be the right move sometimes. That's all I've got today, my friends. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.